Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be doing like a weird fan fiction audio book thing. So there should be, hypothetically, if I manage to finish them on time or something, there should be some speed paints, 1, 2, maybe more. I don't know, I haven't decided yet, I haven't done them all yet. I don't know what I'm doing, if you couldn't tell. Anyways, to the audio book stuff, let's just get started, I guess. I'll read the tags and stuff. There should a time skip on screen if you just want to skip the tags. So this is Bad Sands in Eragon by Chaos Dancer 12 and Skelly Dragonstar. It's on Achieve Our Own. Rating not rated, archive warning, creator chose not to use archive warnings, fandoms, Undertale video game, and The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. Sorry if I butchered that. I don't know who you are. Characters: Error, Nightmare, Eragon, Shade, Slayer, Saphira, Horror, Dust, Killer, Cross, X-Kara, Blueberry, or also known as Underswap Sands or Blue, Gino, Chaos, it's also Ink, and Dream gets mentioned sometimes a lot, and Blue's brother gets mentioned at one point. Additional tags: F God Error, which means Forced God Error. Series Part 1 of the Bad Sands in Alasthesia, sorry if I'm butchering that, series. Stats: published 2020, 04, 11, whatever that means. Completed 2020, 06, 04. It was finished in June 4th. Also, the sequel to this has not been made yet, which is sad, but hey, at least this one's completed. Alright, the description, the summary. Ink decided to throw the Bad Sands, and Blue accidentally, away into a different multiverse. They ended up in the world of the Inheritance Cycle, around the time the Razak captured our writer, his dragon, and his teacher. Let's watch as this group of skeletons join in on the adventures and see how they change the story. Now, I came up with the idea, and the Fire Lady and I are working on it, so just enjoy that story, and that last bit was in notes. Keep in mind, I've never read, like, the Inheritance Cycle or anything about, like, Alasthesia or whatever, so I don't really know very much about these characters except for what I read. I think they're, like, dragon slayers or riders or something. I have no idea. I think I tried reading it once and then I got bored out of my mind, so I ended up dropping the book or something. Chapter 1, Prologue, How They Fell. Also, a lot of these are, like, really, most of these are really long except for the prologue. The prologue's the shortest chapter. All the other ones are, like, a lot longer, so I'll probably only be doing 2 or 3 chapters every episode. I plan on doing several episodes of this, so yeah. Also, if any of you have any other fan fictions or anything that you want me to read or something, put links down in the comments. I basically do all of the fanfic websites, basically, I guess, I think. I don't know. Wattpad and Achieve Our Own are the ones that I am the most familiarized with, but I do read from other ones too. Tumblr or any of that, I'll read from that as well. Alright, so now, finally, beginning to read the prologue, How They Fell. Air stood at the edge of a cliff in Outertale looking down at the void. He's covered in blood, open wounds, and scars. He's exhausted, tired of fighting a battle for balance that nobody cares for. So deep in his thought, he didn't hear the portal Nightmare behind him opened to let the Bad Sands and Blueberry into the AU. "Hiya, Air! The blue-clad skeleton squeaked loudly, snapping the glitch away from his thoughts. The forest god turned around to look at the squad, surprised by their sudden appearance of the others. "Why are you all here?" Era demanded the group, a little peeved by their sudden intrusion. Nightmare eased himself onto the ledge, sighing. "Looking for you, of course," he replied in a bored tone while looking at the stars. Era blinked, then stared hard at his own hands. The rest of the gang filled in around them, plopping on the edge recklessly. Blue was drinking straight out of a whiskey bottle with a crazy straw. After a moment of silence, Nightmare spoke up. "I sense your negativity again. Oh, leave me alone. Let me be moody in peace," he explained hotly, scowling. Horror snickered while Dust leaned over to say, "Never." "Wait, Dust, you're never supposed to say never," Killer joked. Dust face-palmed and then shot the dark-eyed skeleton a dirty look. The other only grinned. Horror began casually snacking on a random jerky that was probably made of human flesh, while Killer and Dust started arguing playfully. Era rolled his eyelids and started knitting a new black shirt for Killer, as his already had too many holes and hung off him in rags. Everyone could see his ribcage, and that's just too revealing. Cross gasped as a shooting star flitted the vast glowing sky of galaxies and nebulae. He started munching on a chocolate bar he's been holding ever since they got here. Blueberry snickered as Dust took off running with one of Killer's knives. Said skeleton got up and chased him, yelling that it was his favorite. Horror watched the parrot laughing plain in his eyelight, though no sound was escaping him. He turned away, pulling out his axe and cleaning the blade. It was bloody. He'd killed recently. Nightmare scoffed at the antics, but left it alone as he pulled out a book and got comfortable. Error flinched as he laid one of his tentacles across his shoulder. Nightmare didn't notice, so he let it lie. After a while, the little chase ended as Dust dropped the knife while hanging from a single tree on this cliff. Killer snatched it up with an aha and went to polish it. Dust smirked as he went from his place in the tree, dangling upside down. Noticing the trend for carrying weapons, pulled out his oversized knife and began sharpening it. The Bad Sands were, for once, quiet. The only sound was the soft hum from Dust, needles clicking from Error, page turning from Nightmare, and the rest with their weapons. Even Blue had an enormous hammer out in the open and scrubbing it despite it being spotless. Overachiever. The peace was not to last. Dust very suddenly fell out of the tree, landing with a painful crack. The others turned, a little concerned, only to realize why. Ink was standing behind them, snickering at Dust's hard fall. Error was the first to speak. Nightmare was the first to stand. What are you doing here, you squid?" Ink smirked, leaning on his paintbrush. "Shouldn't I be asking you that?" "Mind your own damn business," Dust fired back. "No," Ink told him with a grin. "It's 6 of us against 1 of you. You don't even stand a chance," Killer explained darkly, while Horror hid Blue behind him, who had complained lightly. Ink still had a smirk on his face. "Well, I was thinking," he started. "Oh god, he's capable of thinking?" Killer muttered, provoking a laugh from the others, even Ink. "Oh geez, I might even miss you," he snickered to himself. "What was that?" Nightmare questioned. Ink clapped his hands together. "Well, I figured the multiverse could use a little break from you guys. More like a break from you and your bullshit," Dust muttered. Nightmare's eyelids narrowed. "And precisely what do you mean by that?" Error had glitched blasters behind him, ready to fire at a moment's notice. Ink chuckled. "Oh, nothing much. I promise we'll look for you in a few years. It won't kill you, I know that much." Now Dust had his own blasters primed. Horror hefting his axe, Cross readying his knife, and Killer had slipped several knives out of his sleeves, while Nightmare sharpened his tentacles. Blue's anxiety from his place behind Horror was steadily rising. Ink observed the display calmly. Unaffected, he giggled, "Toodles!" and rammed Broomy's hand into a huge crack that none of the others had seen and stepped back. The entire cliff the Bad Sands stood on broke loose from the mainland. Killer had time to shout, "Oh shit!" before they started plummeting into the void. The last thing they saw was Ink peering over the cliff edge, waving with that same mocking grin on his face. That is, until he realized Blue was falling down with them. Oh boy, Carrot's gonna kill me. Chapter 2. Their meeting, the death of the writer, and his tomb. The gang slowly woke up in new terrain, groggily checking their surroundings. Nightmare righted himself, wiping off the leaves and dirt with a scowl while taking note of the extreme negativity here. Wherever they were was dark, very dark. He immediately fell in love with it. Blue stood up, stumbling over to Error and helping the glitch to his feet, who in turn picked up the other with his strings. Where are we? Horror groaned, gripping a hole in his skull while cracking his neck vertebrae. I'm not sure, but it's full of negativity, Nightmare responded, stretching out his tentacle to enjoy the virulent mixture of hate, depression, sorrow, and much more. It's a big place as well, he confirmed, opening his eye socket at last. Well, would I use it then? Dust questioned. Error snapped his skull towards him, and Nightmare shrugged. If we survived, then we might be in another multiverse. I've seen some other versions of us before, kid versions, teenagers, a weird empire place, one where we were all wolves, one where ink is a god. No, two, but different variations. Let me check the code. The others were mute with shock. This was the first time hearing of such a thing. Error was busy staring at his screen in disbelief. What is this? He muttered. What, something wrong? Where are we? Blue asked, worried about their current situation. This isn't code. It's something in gibberish. Error gestured to the words irritably. How the hell is that even possible? The others moved around to get a better look. Then Naira spoke up. It looked like a story, but not in a language we can read. Or humphed. Well, shit. Then blinked. The hole in his skull had messed with his mind, and furthermore made it very hard for him to read normally. He found out, thanks to his boss, that he had dyslexia, among other things. Nightmare had, due to boredom, many times got many certificates in many fields. Horror unconsciously started to move his hands, which the others knew he was trying to do something. The movements resembled writing. Blue quickly pulled out a clipboard, a pen, and a piece of paper, which he had on him, because you never know when you need it. Horror began feverishly writing with them, not even seeing his hands as he copied random things. Horror hardly glanced at his scrawling, instead opting to study the unknown words. Then, both of them spoke at the same time. I think I can understand some of it. There's a pattern. I can't tell much, though. Everyone faced Nightmare. How? Dust demanded. His king shrugged, leaning closer to the screen as he began spelling out the words at the top like a note, struggling with the words. Nyat dotherlikar sia sjon nosu oraionu thornessa kavadiahe. The air shook upon the conclusion of the sentence. Nightmare frowned his non-existent eyebrows, then mumbled something incredulously. No mortal may say us, or the script. Error looked at him, baffled. Guess you're our translator, then. Killer shielded his sockets mockingly. Uh-oh, guess we're dead. No mortals may read past this point or whatever. Horror shook his head, not so sure of some of what he wrote. He just knew was past that point, and he was fine. Everyone decidedly sat down, letting Nightmare and Horror study the foreign language. Finally, the king of negativity explained what he understood. It says this land is called Alasthesia. There's no monsters here, I think. People also wrote this. They call themselves the Grey Folk. They seem to have written this as their race was on the decline. They don't seem to be among the living anymore. This place has a few races. I believe the Grey Folk knew something about their future. It says humans will colonize the land from somewhere across the sea, and that elves were here already, along with dwarves and dragons. Wait, hold up. Dragons? Cross perked up in alarm. Yes, they're as sentient as any one of us? Oh boy, Blue added dryly. And they never stop growing. Oh fuck. Language, Blue chastised. Nightmare rubbed his skull tiredly. I can't make out many details. It's straining. They all peered at the words once more. So, it's like a version of the code, Blue suggested? No, it doesn't look like code at all, Eric corrected. Here, I'll compare our code so you get an idea. He opened code windows for all of them, only to blink in shock. Pretty sure last time I saw code it wasn't in Wingdings, Cross commented. It's not supposed to be, Eris sputtered in disbelief. Well, we are in a different multiverse. Maybe it messed with our files? Cross offered. Air nodded. That sounds plausible. Can everyone read it at least? They all confirmed yes. But then Horror went stiff. You alright, Horror? Dust asked him. The creepy skeleton held up a finger to silence him, standing quietly as his keen ears picked up something. People nearby, he finally muttered. Not human voices. Maybe a bird monster or something. The gang stood up as well, alert. Where? Nightmare asked while sending out his magic. Eric copied him. The three glanced where Horror was facing. The animalistic skeleton started creeping forward, predatory in nature. The rest of the team followed, equally silent. Soon they crept up on a campsite, eerie creatures rummaging through a pile of stuff, hissing. There was a dragon next to them, chained and now being muzzled. Its scales were blue and unbelievably shiny, reflecting blue light everywhere from the campfire. Two humans, one old and bearded, the other a teenager, were bound by their hands. All of a sudden, Air lashed out and caught something off to the side. They glanced over to see a human holding a bow and arrows, struggling furiously while the glowing strings gagged him. The gross creatures spoke, making the Sanses forget the captured human. The drug is working. Yes? It was speaking to the teenage human. I think you will not be bothering us again, it continued, the other fighting over the muzzle over the dragon's head. She was most cooperative once we threatened to kill you, they hissed in gross, malformed voices. They went back to the bags, actually looking through the items now. It removed a sword in a scabbard. What a pretty thing, for one so insignificant. Maybe I will keep it. It leaned closer to the human, a nauseating sneer on its face. Or maybe, if you behave, our master will let you polish it. Then it turned over and screeched at something on it, a symbol of some kind. The other one darted over, clicking and hissing like an insectoid. Both were staring at the object in question and then glared at the human. You will serve our master very well, yes. Finally, the human spoke. He slurred, as if drunk or drugged. If I do, I will kill you. They both chuckled, pulling off a villain act that made Nightmare slightly jealous. Oh no, we are too valuable, but you are disposable. The dragon snarled, smoking from the nostrils. They ignored her. Blue's eyelids were blazing angrily. I don't like them. They give me bad vibes, he whispered as the elderly human groaned and rolled over. The creatures seemed alarmed. One grabbed his shirt and hissed, It's wearing off. Give him more. Let's just kill him. He caused us much grief. A good plan, but remember, the king's instructions were to keep him alive. We can say he was killed when we captured them. And what of this one? What if he talks? A laugh, the other drawing out a dagger. He would not dare. They started dragging the elderly one to the side, the younger struggling frantically with his bonds. Blue had had enough. He teleported a few feet away and marched into the campsite before any of the others could react. Shit, fuck! Blue! Damn it, Blueberry! Everyone in the campsite snapped to stare at him as Blue huffed. Bad, no killing, you awful things. Leave this poor old human alone. The bird-like creatures hissing violently, one throwing the sword at Blue. Before he even dodged it, dust had appeared and caught it with blue magic. Though it made a sizzling sound as it dropped, leaving the genocidal skeleton confused, now the creatures screeched, black, beady eyes bulging. What are you? A skeleton, of course. None of your business, Dust finished, summoning blasters behind him as the others entered the camp. Nightmare was chuckling darkly as Era's laugh started glitching. After a short hesitation, the things took off down a dirt road, one turning and throwing a knife right at the younger human. The older lunged to shield him from the blade, grunting from the impact before slumping on his companion. No! Oh, shit, that looked painful, Killer commented loudly. The youthful one doubled over and passed out, Blueberry caught both of them, tisking at their injuries. Human frowned at the unconscious human, then raised a non-existent eyebrow at Error. What? Didn't you capture one? He's right here. He yanked strings over. I'd have him by the soul, but he doesn't appear to have any. The battered human glared at them angrily. Well, we could at least question him, Nightmare said calmly, grinning. Wait, Hor piped up from in front of the dragon. They could come back. Yeah, with reinforcements, Dust added. And we only have the element of surprise for so long. We don't know how powerful they actually are or what they're capable of. They managed to chain up that thing, Cross finished, pointing his knife at the dragon, who narrowed his eyes and growled at him. Did we take off its restraints? Killer asked as Nightmare thought. Not yet, as I think they called it she, may attack us. We should get moving, perhaps hide our tracks as they could follow them like Hor did that one time he stole his axe, Dust. I'll be doing that, boss. I'm the only real hunter here anyway. Hor dipped his skull at his king. Nightmare hummed. Then let's get going. The human in Error's string suddenly screamed into his gag angrily. Oh, what does our prisoner want? Nightmare snapped. Oh, don't be so harsh, Nightmare. We could let the human help us. Like, tell us where the nearest void is so I can get back and slap the heck out of Ink, Blue told him. Killer and Dust both snickered, giving each other wicked grins as Nightmare sighed. Fine. Let's ask the prisoner why he is screaming nicely. He waved at Error, who smirked and while ungagged the human. The boy bellowed, I don't care what you do to me. Just don't forget the damn horses. They all stared at him, then glanced at the horses nearby, a third canteening into the campground and approaching the bound human. Everyone gave each other looks. I might ride one. It sounds like fun. Blue spoke aloud. The rest all shook their skulls. All right, there's enough to carry all the humans easily. Just dump them on the animals. We're going. Error shrugged and placed his tied prisoner onto the gray steed as Blue perked up about the older human as Cross plopped him on a white horse. He's hurt! Has a knife sticking out of him and everything, the monochrome skeleton regarded him. You want to heal him? Fine. He scrambled onto the animal's back and gently removed the blade from the human's shoulder. He called out to Killer and tossed it to him, who caught it easily and began healing the wound, grimacing at it. They started moving and the dragon following them with loud clanks. Dude, can't it just fly? Killer questioned. It's chained up, dumbass. Dust responded. Why don't we unchain it, you know? It seems to like us. The dragon snarled as if saying no. Killer stared at it. Hey boss, didn't you read that dragons here are sentient and everything? Maybe it talks. Yes, perhaps you can. But do you really think it's a good idea to move the only barrier between her teeth and us? He pointed out. Use your damn head, Killer, Cross added. Killer glared at Cross, then gasped and pointed behind him. Hey, is that a herd of cows? What? Cross leapt unnaturally high, screaming in a high-pitched tone as he looked around desperately, then calmed down, facing Killer with red highlights. Fuck. Killer started running ahead, Cross chasing him and yelling furiously. The others snickered except Nightmare, Error, and Blue. Nightmare stared as Blue jumped off his ride and approached the dragon, who eyed him warily. Please don't eat any of us. We won't taste good. We're skeletons. He gently removed the muzzle. The others all frozen when they heard the dragon growl deeply. Blue backed off, face contorted in concern. The dragon just rushed over to hover above the human protectively. The gang slowly relaxed as she sent a piercing glare at all of them, freezing at Nightmare. Her eyelights flared as he grinned maliciously. You think you can stare me down, dragon? He chuckled. I'm afraid you are not the strongest here. The reptile glared hatefully, then a feminine voice retched into all of their skulls despite being the most directed at Nightmare. Puny creatures, I could eat you all so easily if Eragon was not here. After a moment of surprise, Nightmare recovered quickly. So that's his name then. I would advise you not to try and eat any of us. Skeletons make poor meals, I am sure. That, and I will drive you to insanity from the inside out. After an angry staring contest, Blue interrupted them. Nightmare, can you not try to scare the dragon? She seems very nice. If she wasn't so on edge, I want to be her friend. I'm sure we can all be nice to each other and ask nicely about this multiverse and how we can go home soon. I'm pretty sure Pappy already misses me, and Ink might reach the limit soon without Error to stop him. And as much as you guys don't like him, I'm sure Dream wants you to come back home too, as well as your brother Hor. They all fell silent, the mood turning somber. A few minutes passed in a thoughtful silence, introspective and tainted with worry. We gotta pick up the pace. Find somewhere to hide for the night. A horror finally spoke, voice rasping softly. Cross and Killer suddenly teleported back into the group. Did you say somewhere to camp for the night? Keller asked in his most comedic voice. The other side. Were you two just waiting for someone to bring that up? Nightmare asked, unimpressed despite the conscious human staring in complete shock. Killer snickered, shit-eating grin on his face. We scattered a few miles ahead and found some sandstone hills. There's a few good caves, including one kind of high up that the dragon will fit in. I don't think it can be reached from the ground. It isn't even visible unless you're high up. It'll protect us from any ambush. Good. Can you teleport all of us? Nightmare questioned. Cross and Killer stared at the dragon a little nervously. Are you sure, boss? Killer asked worriedly. Nightmare closed his socket and grinned. Then he looked at the dragon, who glared. I'm sure. Cross stiffened, like the loyal right hand he was. Killer groaned, then complained. I ain't going near that thing. You go ahead and get dusted, Cross. I'm taking everyone else. He went and grabbed the horse and riders. They vanished. The dragon flinched, then roared. Where's my rider? Cross jumped, then steeled his nerves and grabbed a tail spike, disappearing with the huge beast. A second later, Killer reappeared with a frightened look on his face, then teleported the rest of the gang. The scene was chaotic. Cross held the horse reins with one hand, while the other was held up, forcing the frantically clawing dragon away with blue magic while sweating from the strain. Cross, let her go. She's just trying to reach her human friend, Blue cried out. Cross shot Nightmare a desperate look, and he nodded quickly. Dust managed to grab some animals that screamed in terror while Cross collapsed, unleashing the beast. She charged over, sliding as she arrived at the panicking horses, snarling at Dust, with smoke billowing from her mouth and nostrils. Dust glared back, left eye socket smoking. Blue inserted himself between the two, negotiating with the dragon. Let's come down, okay? No one is hurt. It was just teleportation. We are trying to stay safe and keep your humans safe. See? Nothing happened. The dragon eyed distrustfully, sniffing the younger human over and wrinkling her nose at the older one. Who poisoned the old one? Blue's eyelids died. Then he recovered and called out to Killer. Killer, is that knife poisonous? He pulled it out and shrugged. Like hell if I know. Dust opened his free hand, gesturing. Give it. I can detect poison. Killer shrugged yet again and handed it over. Dust recoiled, then took it hesitantly. He roughly handed the reins over to Blue, who muttered, Hey! Dude, I don't know what's up with this world, but there's magic somehow in this blade. He looked up at Nightmare, who blinked. Error then sighed loudly. Let's take this inside, he spoke impatiently. The rest all hesitated, then agreed. They quickly arrived inside the dry cavern, sighing in relief at the familiar atmosphere of something underground and enclosed. It's kind of like waterfall here, Blue commented. They all froze, then chuckled. They hadn't thought of that. Dust smiled. It's kind of drier, but it kind of is. Nightmare shrugged, grinning anyway as Error rolled his eyelids and pretended not to smile. They set the mysterious human in front of the dragon, all staring at each other tensely, as the one she was protecting was waking. What are you? He asked. Your name is Eragon, correct? Nightmare ignored his question. Blue held up his hand, shooting Nightmare a look, who glared but didn't pursue. I'm Blueberry, but you can call me Blue. We're skeleton monsters from another multiverse. Actually, Nightmare interrupted him, I do not believe this is a multiverse. I sent no AUs or any equivalent. Just one vast world with more negativity than our entire multiverse. They all leaned back from him. Oh shit, no wonder you've been nice today, Killer commented. Furrowed his non-existent eyebrows. That means it's completely imbalanced here. Yes, it is. The goopy skeleton leaned back, grinning. It's quite delicious. I almost want to see Dream react to this place. Holy crap, it's so bad you want to bring that sunshiny bastard here? Dust questioned. Nightmare only grinned wider. Blue scoffed. Okay, we're off topic now. We were introducing ourselves? Nightmare sat back up. Very well. Then he stood, tentacles moving around slowly and menacingly. I am Nightmare, King of Negativity, Lord of Darkness, Guardian of Nightmares. Show off, Horror muttered. Nightmare glared. What was that? Nothing, boss. Blue banged his skull against a cave wall. Can you stop trying to scare the humans and dragon for 1 second? Everyone gave him a look. Blueberry let out an exasperated groan. Forgive them, they're just flashy. he explained to the stranger irritably. Killer leapt to his feet. Oh, you call that flashy? You think that's flashy? Here's motherfucking flashy. Shut up, Killer, Dust ordered boredly. He went ignored as Killer summoned half of his knives, black and glowing red. He stabbed them into the floor, and it too turned red. Then Dust roughly tugged him back to his seat. Calm the fuck down, you hyperactive shit. Killer paused, then swung his fist into Dust's face. It landed with a hollow clank, and Dust yelled, Son of a bitch! Take it outside, and no blasters, Dust, and no knives, Killer. Nightmare spoke in monotone. Both immediately teleported, and their scuttle could be heard in the distance. Blueberry groaned into his hands. We're off to such a great start, aren't we? He moaned into his gloves. What kind of magic is that? They didn't even use the words of power, Eragon questioned nervously. The others raised their skulls in confusion. Words of power? Horror asked. What is that? Cross elaborated. The humans stared at them incredulously. Blue coughed into his hand. Listen, humans, we aren't from this world. We had our own homes and worlds. We were thrown into something that brought us here. We want to go home. Clearly, magic works differently here than in our multiverse, and I think it might take a while to understand each other. I think we're just lucky that our worlds do have similarities, like the language we currently speak, and the existence of some magic. He explained the best he could. Era sighed. You have a point, Blue. I want to add that it might not be possible. Cross sat up. Horror stood. Blue blinked, and Nightmare faced Era, demanding, What do you mean? I mean, we fell through the damn void. Now Ink said he could bring us back, but he'd say a few years. If I'm not there destroying AUs, he's gonna overfill it in about one. A few choking gasps. But my brother is still there, Blueberry stuttered. And mine, Horror whined. Era looked away. I've already tried opening a portal back. I can only do windows. They're celebrating our damn absence. He smirked a little. Ink looked like your bro damn near killed him, though. Blue looked crestfallen, staring at the ground. Nightmare gave him a worried look as the others grew uncomfortable. I need a moment, please. Blue stood up and hurried to the cave entrance, leaping out and falling more than 30 feet. Nightmare hesitated, giving the others a little glare, then followed. Era had a shell-shocked look on his face, realizing he was the one who hurt Blueberry. He started glitching harder. I didn't mean to hurt you. Cross? Horror asked slowly, not looking away from the glitch. The chocolate, he ordered. After a pause, Cross gave in and pulled out the bar from his inventory regretfully. Don't let him waste it. Chocolate's a delicacy now. Horror hummed as the other handed over the goods. He stood up, opened the bar, breaking off a piece and waving it before Era's face. Era, it's not your fault. Blue ain't mad at ya. He's mad at Ink. Blame the rainbow squid, not yourself. I can't do a damn thing right. Worthless glitch. Error! Horror pressed, grabbing the dark skeleton's shoulder. Error jumped, glitching away from the contact and suddenly stringing Horror up against the opposite wall, clawing his eye sockets while the strings glowed with nervous energy and power. Don't touch me! His namesake filled his red eye sockets. Error! It's me! Ink isn't here! He's not here! He can't hurt you! Cross waved in front of his face, holding the chocolate. Horror dropped. Here's some chocolate! You'll calm down! Suddenly the quiet human they captured spoke up earlier. Tell him to breathe slowly and out. He's having a panic attack, I think. Cross took his advice, willing to take anything at this point. Era started calming down, eye sockets clearing up a little. His red and yellow phalanges found the chocolate bar, slowly grabbing it and tugging it away. The glitched skeleton then put it in his teeth and started licking it gently. The strings released Horror as he slumped onto the floor, not even noticing the stalactite sticking out of his hole now. The one named Eragon choked. You have a hole in your... Horror looked at the human, perplexed. You have a rock sticking out of your hole, Cross explained. Oh! Horror reached up, finding it and pulling it out. The tip was covered in red. Horror! Cross was alarmed. The creepy skeleton noticed the color. His sockets widened. He abruptly reached inside his hole and pulled out a ketchup bottle. Cross face-palmed loudly while Horror gasped. No, that was a special edition. Then the determined gleam into his eyelids. Horror started licking the sharp tip of the rock. His sockets closed in bliss. Good as I remember. He muttered happily and proceeded to drink the ketchup from the puncture point. Cross snark, you kept ketchup in there? Yeah, deluxe. AU it come from doesn't even exist anymore. Seriously? Ouch. Really bad choice, bud. He glared at the monochrome. Piss off, you religious icon. Fuck you, you mentally challenged cripple. Zebra, pedophile, half-human, anorexic, homeless. That hit a nerve. Cross glared harder. Horror grinned humorlessly. Then Error mumbled something. What? Horror switched topics very cleverly. Error blinked, then focused on him. We aren't going to be able to go back home, Horror. They stared at each other, then Horror huffed. He turned away, hiding his crushing sorrow as well. I'm gonna go to sleep, he muttered, clearly more hurt than he let on. The human bonded with the dragon, Eragon, who actually seemed to understand, so did the other. The others returned. Blueberry showed signs of recent tears, Nightmare subtly comforting him as Killer and Dust were quiet. The two genocidal skeletons carried sticks and wood, dropping it in a pile near the entrance, while Dust lit it up with a spark of his magic. Soon the air was filled with a crackling fire and nothing else. They watched the fire spit and sizzle. The mood was depressive. Or do you have anything we can share that isn't human flesh? Dust asked in a low voice. The other rolled over to face him. A few red tears picked the corners of his sockets. Yeah, I got a deer I snatched in an hour before we fell into the void, he mumbled. He pulled it out of his inventory. A sack of meat. The others recoiled in disgust, but then Horror turned a blank gaze towards Blueberry. Your emergency cooking supplies would come in handy right now. The normally chipper skeleton sighed wearily. I guess they would. And he reached into his subspace, pulling out a portable cooking set and more. With a low chuckle, Blue spoke up. I can't believe I'm using my emergency taco ingredients. I never thought this day would come. He smiled half-heartedly at the humans. Have you ever had tacos before? They shook their heads. Never heard of those. Blue froze in disbelief momentarily, then reanimated. I need to show you the glory of tacos, then, he piped up with partly forced enthusiasm. Maybe you can try and tell us about your world, Error offered as the human inched closer, and we'll try to explain ours? Maybe start with names, Dust chuckled without much joy. I'm Eragon. He's Brom and this is my dragon, Sephira. Murtagh. What, do you own her or something? Killer asked. Sephira responded with a weird, grinding, warbling growl. No, we're writer and dragon. I'm a writer. And thus began the long conversation of Alasthesia and later the Underverse. Editing Anna here. I've decided to end this episode here. So yeah, we've reached it to chapter 1.5. I'll be finishing the rest of chapter 2 in the next episode, and that's just what the entire rest of the next episode's gonna be, because I want to post it sooner, and hopefully it'll be shorter than 30 minutes. So yeah. Also, I'm ending it here because Kind Master has been lagging super bad since it's like 30 minutes long. It takes like 20 to 30 seconds for a single layer to upload. Like, yeah, it takes a while for me to edit. Anyways, I'll be working on a bloopers using the audio bloopers, obviously. I'm really bad at talking, so there'll be quite a lot of them. Yeah. The original audio was over an hour long. I managed to cut it down quite a bit. So, yeah. Anyways, I hope you have enjoyed, and,